We're going to talk about Big Four salaries and what specifically you should expect from each of the Big Four. Now, here's a little bit of context. First of all, who are the Big Four? The Big Four firms are EY, formerly known as Ernst & Young, PwC, PricewaterhouseCoopers, Deloitte, and KPMG. The four of these firms have historically become famous for their audit and their tax practices, which are still the largest portions of both of the firms. And they all have hundreds of thousands of employees worldwide. These are some of the world's largest companies, and they're also well-run professional services firms. But when you're trying to figure out where is the overlap between consulting and the Big Four, it can get a little bit murkier. But never fear, data is always our friend. And in this situation, data can really help us tell the story for why you might want to go into the strategy and strategy consulting practices of the Big Four firms. So we're going to walk through each firm in turn, and we're going to talk about their different practice areas and a little bit more about the details of the numbers. Before we do that, let me just give you a little bit of history. Originally, the consulting practices of the Big Four firms were tied in to their audit and their tax practices. After 2001 and the Enron scandal and Sarbanes-Oxley in the United States, there became kind of a wall inside of organizations where if you were working for your consulting practice, you couldn't also work for your tax or accounting practice. Let me say that a little bit more clearly. It would be important that the accountant that was auditing a firm wasn't also being told by a consultant how the audit should look. And so for regulatory reasons, a lot of those practice areas were separated because there were insider trading issues and there were accounting scandals that led to some major macroeconomic disruption. So because of this, a lot of the firms isolated out their consulting practice and they began to focus on a different kind of consulting. And in the last couple of decades, 3 of the 4 Big Four have purchased strategy consulting firms. Deloitte bought Monitor Group. EY bought Parthenon. PwC bought Strategy and each one of those groups became the core of a faster growing, higher profit, but still smaller boutique presence inside the organizations. Each one of those strategy groups really do compete with MBB. Before I share the numbers, there's just one more note. There is a massive amount of variance, unlike McKinsey, Bain, and BCG, across offices and practice areas inside the Big Four. In short, all Big Four consulting is not created equal. And so it's important that we give you some of the baseline numbers that we have, but that you're going to go back, contextualize them, and expect that there could be geographical or practice area variations when you get your offer. One of the things, though, that does make it easier across the strategy consulting firms is that many of the firms pay very similarly. In fact, when we do comp studies for other organizations, the Big Four are generally almost always comparing offer letters and matching one another. So instead of going through each firm in specific, we're going through the Big Four in general. First, Big Four undergraduate and master's full-time roles. For strategy consulting, you're starting with $100K base salary. For the tax, audit, and assurance practices, you're looking at between $70K and $85K for your base salary. For the Big Four undergraduate or master's internships, you're looking at $48 an hour for strategy consulting compared to $30 an hour for tax, audit, and assurance. For the Big Four, when you are in a graduate role and you're joining full-time, you're going to see a pretty substantial pay increase. For strategy consulting, you're looking at between $175K and $190K for your base salary. And for tax, audit, and assurance, you're looking for between $110 and $145K base salary. You'll see that the split really does widen at the graduate level. For Big Four graduate internships, you'll see that similar divide. Strategy consulting is $30K to $35K for the summer, which comes out to about $85 an hour, whereas tax, audit, and assurance comes out to about $60 an hour. There's only one point of sad news for those of you that are outside the US. You aren't going to get paid US salaries. And we understand that there are a lot of reasons for that. But you're looking at around a 15 to 30% haircut off of US salaries across all Big Four practices if you're not operating inside the US. So just pay attention if you have options for where to work and think about that strategically. In conclusion, it's pretty obvious that for the Big Four salaries, the major firms that are focused on strategy consulting are going to pay the best. And if you're in a consulting practice, out of all the consulting options, you'll want to be in strategy consulting specifically. In fact, that pay difference is often a 15 to 30% increase over tax, audit, and assurance. So it makes sense to really focus on the consulting practice if you're open to doing analytical work and you don't necessarily know where you want to land. So Big Four salaries still are attractive no matter what practice you pick. You're going to find some of the organization's best benefits that are gold standard for the entire US market and globally. You'll find opportunities to work in different practice areas. You'll get professionally developed, mentored, and trained. And your exit opportunities are amazing. We are huge fans of Big Four opportunities, but they can be really challenging to navigate. So if you want help getting an offer in the Big Four or help parsing out what your offer means, we're available for one-on-one coaching. You can either work with our Black Belt program or you can just hire us for a single hour. We would love to help you navigate your journey into and maybe even someday out of the Big Four. Thanks so much for joining.